Hey, everybody. All
Hey,
right. So we're going to get into some topics here. The first one is we're looking at the Russell Brand situation. And then the second one we're going to kind of tap into is the Lauren Boebert, the Republican representative. Is she Congress or is she
she's Congress, yeah.
Congress?
She's a 2-year cycle.
Yeah.
She
Um,
came in with Matt Gaetz, and she's kinda Matt Gaetz's, not lapdog, but she
right.
was just like, "Yes, what he says."
Yeah.
She was along with the ride, he's part of his caucus.
Yeah. So I guess for starters, there's the with the Russell Brand. He was I saw his he sent out an
Denial.
X or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, his
Or
denial speech.
his refute. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. He uses the word refute and there's like denial and there's refute and that. Initially I was kind of thinking that they meant the same thing. And I still think they largely do, but maybe there is some kind of like small difference in there. Um, and so he's kind of like refuting some of the claims, um, largely in that all of this stuff was consensual. Not all of the stuff was
So
consensual, but the relationships that he was in was consensual.
unfortunately, it makes no difference to me in terms of me listening to him because I already figured this was the case, honestly, even if this is true.
Yeah,
I figured that he was just he's like a Hollywood guy and a sexual deviant in general with how he did his
hopped up on
lifestyle.
drugs, drug
I think,
addiction.
yeah, and drugs all the time. I just figured there was so much of that like
Yeah,
that's kind of already baked in, so it's not gonna be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're not like you ran on family values. That's why the Boebert thing fits in
yeah.
here too. It's more that conservatives tend to run tend to be, tend
Very
to
hypocritical on from
right.
the
Although
morally.
although every
Yeah,
100% of everybody is a hypocrite because we all fall short
yeah.
in everything we try to do. But still, yes.
Morally though, what often happens is with Republicans, they're just very morally hypocritical. They'll say that they'll promote these certain types of morals, and then they'll go on
Yeah.
and they'll criticize and they'll vote against other against the same kinds of things
Yeah.
that they
To me,
feel.
I don't see that as a problem exactly because um as someone that fails to hold up to my ideals often, but to espouse that there is an ideal that you want to try to achieve and something that you think is a good prescription for good society is still good to have. And so when you're saying that someone isn't perfect on this, it's like, yeah, no one is Jesus. And yes,
Right.
they sometimes they do stupid shit and they should have known better. It's it's hard to really know anyone's individual life and how things come up and all the ups and downs they have. And sometimes people have these ideas where um they think it's just fine to, oh, I can hang out with these girls alone or whatever else. It's like
Yeah.
it's fine, and then it's not fine. You just because,
Yeah.
just because life happens. You didn't plan on it, but like, oh my gosh, and this is just happening now. So a lot of people get put themselves in that kind of trap, and they don't make the proper prep work. So I don't care about the hypocritical nature of it because the word hypocrite is overused because I think it applies to everybody,
Well,
like everybody.
I think that the large the staying point to me in that hypocrisy is kind of the trend that Republicans often have had to deal with, in the sense of like they would be very much against and voting against gay stuff, and then they go and it gets found out that, oh hey, they are having gay sex.
Yes, yes.
Like,
So if that were the case with me, if I believed everything exactly like I do, but I had these compulsions to be gay, and where I would totally try to hide that, and I'd still say what I believe to be correct. It's like there's this sin here that is a plague that is bad, or like if you're doing drugs, you can still say doing drugs is bad definitively and believe it, but then still be caught in this
sure.
in the negative behavior. So it's
The big
yes,
difference though is
it-
that you're not somebody who's creating legislation and making casting like nationwide or statewide votes
so
on these topics. So that
so I
your
don't even,
hypocrisy is kind of personal, whereas a
yeah.
politician engaging in these kinds of things, they're kind of set to a higher standard. Um, because if they're going to be sitting here being judgmental and passing legislation, and then they're hypocritical in their own lives on those kinds of things that they're passing legislation on, I think that that does absolutely become a problem.
So yeah, but I mean, if you have someone like a Mike Pence, right, where his whole thing is about being Mike Pence, which is conservative, like goody two shoes type
Right.
of fella, type of whatever else, and then he's secretly having multiple affairs. That is bad. That's you're selling something that you're not doing. But if you have someone like Boebert, where I'm like, she looks like a freaking party girl in the first place. I said she's having a little too much. She was enjoying that, like when she's on Temple with Matt, and they're doing all these different things, and they're like, I could tell she's a little bit wild. She's not a Mike Pence type of person, right? I mean,
Right.
everyone's got their thing and whatever, and she like there's a divorce process is happening, so it's not even that. And I don't even think it's. I mean, in theaters, it's really dark. I didn't realize until this that they have
Cameras and night
night
vision
vision
cameras.
cameras in theaters, which makes sense,
Yeah.
but I had no idea that was the case, and it's very possible she didn't either, that she was just figuring, like, a certain amount of thing you think you have a little bit of, like, cover of darkness, and
Yeah.
and she's trying to feel frisky like a teenager again because 'cause she's got whatever. Eh, I don't care about that part. What I care about is the person she's associated with there. He's just I don't like
See, I
the
don't know
position.
anything about that guy. The
Um,
behavior though, I it's it's not so much like taking a random individual and them going through and doing everything that she just did. I could honestly like I could care less.
yeah,
Um, but when it's like here's a representative who is going into a theater and vaping, being told to stop and then not
yeah,
stopping, um, getting felt up and feeling up the guy
yeah.
next to her, um, and then after being asked to leave, kind of throwing a fit and throwing denials all over the place. It's
And lying about the
yeah,
course of things that happen. Yes, all of the stuff after the fact is the problem part,
yeah,
the bad part, and like they said, the person she's associating with, which whatever, but it's just like it's just I guess the policies don't matter when dealing with individuals, but like she's hanging out and she's besties with someone that has conflicting
yeah.
um
So tell me about
agendas.
this guy. What's the
So
problem with this guy? I know nothing about him.
so unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to back that up because I only figured this out. I didn't know about him until it was explained to me the details by I think I listened to either Tim or Ben. They're talking. I think it was Tim Pool. Um, and I didn't commit that part to memory, but he
He's
said
had
it.
Boebert on the
He
show
said that
before,
he
but
said
yeah,
the idea of who this guy was and what he and how he used to work for the Trump campaign, but he did but I'm sorry, I'm not gonna be able to give a coherent
that's
answer in
fine.
that. So you can disregard, but just my general feeling about it is, I guess we can disregard that whole thing, the whole who's he associating with. But I think Tim made a good point about it's like, yeah, what it's just a little weird that I want to create a fake event, but let's say for instance it's like this guy's pro-abortion and she's very against abortion.
Hmm.
Abortion. I don't remember what the issue was, but if it's something like that, and then associating like this, even though it's fine to disagree with people and to marry someone that is opposite party, it's fine. It just it felt like like
Like
you're
the
saying one
values were
thing,
not.
it makes you seem like you're not
Yeah.
consistent with your views. It doesn't necessarily mean that, but it just feels like it.
Okay.
That's what it made me
Yeah.
feel like when I heard the explanation. So I don't know the details,
I
but
get. Yeah. I guess even I guess a lot of that kind of stuff sounds like it's kind of damaging in the optics department. Um,
yes, there we go.
and
That's what I mean.
it just kind of is like, okay, like it makes you second guess her and her intentions and what she's doing and her representation and all this stuff and decision making. I think if anything, the biggest aspect of this for Boebert um is that really kind of goes against her is her decision making skills.
Yes.
Um and
Yeah, that's
those
good.
and
Yeah.
that is when you're in the political light, that's among the most important things. So I would definitely understand why voters would really be like, you know what, I don't know how that I really am in agreement with this. It really like not the actions and things like that or whatever the intricate details of
Yeah.
whatever it is that went on with her, but her decision to um to
You know,
lie about it
it would
really.
be refreshing if the take against her was actually the decision making and the cover up type attempts with her
That's
words
what I think the
and her
important
being a
thing is.
bitch to the people.
Yeah.
It would be refreshing if that's where the argument were the attacks were from the Democrat side, but what they're probably going to also they're going to focus on there, like she's supposed to be these for conservative values, and she's going and being groped in theater when they don't care
So
about that.
it's the
You know,
old
I don't.
school
I
stuff
it'd
then.
be refreshing if they didn't. That's what I'm saying. I'm
Yeah.
saying like it'd be refreshing if they just let that alone and went by the things that are there that are real things.
Yeah.
But
So do you know what the Democrats angle is on this?
nope, it's too fresh. I
Too
didn't.
fresh.
I haven't listened to anyone else. I haven't listened to much in the last 2 days,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah, honestly, I haven't even heard that much generally about it. I mean, I guess I hear about it here and there, but it's mostly just like here's the facts and here's what happened,
Yeah.
and there's not really much opinion that I've kind of come across on it.
So
Um
I haven't heard anyone from the other side say what they think about it at this point at all. I normally would be listening to some content like that, but I've just been listening to audiobooks and looked at some YouTube. Like I tend to
yeah,
right now I'm in a Tim Pool kind of phase again where I'm kind of you catch his 20-minute videos every day and his 2 20-minute videos he releases and that's about all I know. I don't know the other side like I normally would if I would, be listening all day to politics.
I feel like the what would be nice is if the people who are on that side, because we basically kind of went through a time under Trump where it was like the criticisms and the everything that we heard about an individual, largely being Trump, it all was created and framed and dealt with by the opposition. And I think that was really bad. I don't think that it even really allowed um, the right to hold anybody accountable, to hold him accountable for anything that he did or said, because it just instantly put everybody in like a defensive position.
Yeah,
And on top of that, it was really bad because it was largely lies. It was misinterpretations. It was bad interpretations. It was twisting of words in order to create narratives and to push those things. So it kind of trained a lot of people. But I think that it would be nice for us to kind of get into a time where it was like, okay, here's people on this side. I don't really like being a Democrat. I don't have really much of an opinion on this nonsense, on this situation. I think that it's up for the Republicans to um to talk about it, to give their takes on it. And then we can kind of sit back as a Democrat and just kind of be like, "Huh, okay." And I feel like that's and for that to also happen on the left. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things that kind of happen on the left with Biden and all this stuff, where there's a lot of stuff that happens that is on the left and the Democrats engage in, but we don't like they don't talk about any of that kind of stuff. The left just doesn't really have anything to say. They more just kind of like point, oh yeah, but what about Trump? What about Trump? And I think that
yeah,
when the if if Trump does get elected again, I think that all of the tools that they were using in the past of like, hey, what about this with Trump? What about this? Like, look at Trump. You need to know. You need to condemn him. You need to say that this is not right. I think all that stuff is going to go out the window. It's just going to have zero foundation because everybody's just going to be able to look at look at Biden, and they're going to say, "You guys shut up about Biden on everything." So for you to come and talk to
Yeah.
me about any of this stuff, it just falls flat.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Okay,
Uh,
so then there's the Russell Brand situation, right? And so the Russell Brand situation, I think, is a very I find it more interesting in what it's kind of exposing than what it is than the actual story of the accusations and everything. It's what's interesting to me with the Russell Brand situation is that they're trying to tell me that I need to care about a lot of this stuff. I like we kind of said earlier,
yeah.
none of this stuff is a surprise, right? And the thing that I think about and the way that I kind of look at it from like post Me Too, and one of the things that always bothered me about Me Too is that in many of the cases, some of them some of those cases I think were well deserved. I think that there were people who did need to be permanently held accountable. But there's a lot of others where it's like, okay, look, you guys behaved badly. You guys did things that you really shouldn't have done, but you guys have kind of grown out of this. You guys, this is not your behavior today. You've grown past it. So why would I be necessarily interested in punishing these people for things that they no longer engage in, no longer support, any of that stuff? And I think that when you take the look at the Russell Brand situation, a lot of it is, hey, here, all of this stuff pretty much took place from what it sounds like what, 15 years ago or something like that, like 10, 15 years ago, probably maybe even longer. And
Yeah.
it's like,
15 to 20.
yeah, and it's like, okay, you know, he seems to have he got through his drug addiction. He no longer does drugs anymore, which is probably a large reason for his behavior, his glazed over shark dead-eyed look in his face, probably because he was on drugs. And then it doesn't seem like he's, not that he's not sexually active anymore. I'm sure he probably is.
He is, but he's monogamous now with a woman.
Right. And so he's not like going around and doing he basically he's kind of grown up. And so since
Yeah.
he's started his whole podcast thing or his YouTube videos and all of that stuff on Rumble, he seems to have, you know, not he's like a behaviorally in that
Yeah.
regard
He's trying to be a better man.
a different person.
Yeah. He's trying to be a better man in general. Uh, it's just it's funny how he didn't get attacked for it before, but now he's saying things about the coronavirus and about
I don't think
and about censorship. I feel like it's coincidental now, especially since we know about the UK government sending the email to Rumble saying, "Hey, it would be a shame if this guy could profit, being
yeah,
being who he is and all." And they said they
they
declined that, but
recommend it. They
but
recommend
the
that
the
they
governments are it's not a conspiracy. They're actively trying to get his money supply shut down, and that's why things are happening. Like he didn't break any YouTube rules
Mm-mm.
at all. So why is YouTube banning him? I am. This is a new idea here, but I'm almost of the opinion that YouTube at this point is a public forum. It's not a private. It's not as much of a private company as what it was at one point because of the protections that are put in place by the laws that are grants them certain protections. It's basically should be a public venue, and you shouldn't even ban Hitler if you're alive today. I think you should be able to have his bullshit on there, and you should be able to see it. Maybe you don't have the reach. Like this is crazy. This is the crazy part. I understand. Sounds crazy, but just conceptually, the idea that The why have Alex Jones banned? Or even if he did, even if he was still on about the thing that got him canceled, the saying that it was
Sandy
a
Hook, yeah.
Sandy Cook invented, it was a whatever false flag. Even if he was still on that, I think it should be we should be able to see the crazy. And I think there should, I don't know, I we
I
should
find
know
that
who's going. We should
I
know who's
yeah,
going to these, who's watching this,
I
instead of just
find that
having
stuff
people in the
useful
shadows
as
or
well.
finding backdoor alley places to talk and chat.
Yeah, I find that stuff useful as well. When crazy people start talking and they go into all these theories, I find it useful, even just as even for the people who believe it, because as long as they are able to continue to speak and continue to go, people have an opportunity to check themselves. They oftentimes reach a critical point where it's like, okay, I think that this is getting like this is pretty crazy. I remember there was a time my friend told me about he told me about Alex Jones, and he this was the whole all the 9/11 is an inside job kind of stuff. And I started listening to him for like I don't know 6 months or something like that. Um, like hard listening to him, and I bought into a fair amount of the things that he was kind of saying because I've talked about it before, the Alex Jones tactic. Um, and through listening to him, and then I was like, okay, this is getting a bit much. I need to take a little bit of a break. I took like a break, and I ended up not listening to him for a while. And then when I started listening to him again, I was like, this dude is out, he's out there. Like none of this stuff really makes any sense. I kind of found my own pathways of doing my own little bits and pieces of research, and I found that to be really useful, and it enabled me to see the world in a clearer way. And so I don't think that Alex Jones should be deplatformed. One of the my biggest issues that I have with Elon Musk is that he has this free speech platform and all of this stuff, but Elon Musk is kind of taking this personal vendetta against Alex Jones for some of the
Yeah,
things
it's
that he
ridiculous.
said, and he's like, I'm just not going
It's
to allow
yeah,
it back on.
it's a inconsistency
It's
for
a
sure.
massive inconsistency, and I think that it blatantly goes in the face of Trump's or of Elon Musk's entire um platform.
I think that Elon Musk is in that scenario. He's just like, you know what? I'm pretty good at things. I'm just gonna veto on that guy. He's the
But
only
I
one he's singled
yeah,
out. He's the only one singled out, and he's
yeah,
just gonna do it, and he just did it. And it could be maybe a strategy so that he can show, say, "Hey, look, see, we have a balance here, or we have like we don't not
it
ban
doesn't even
people."
seem that it doesn't seem that way because he's pretty open in that this is just a personal vendetta. He doesn't like
Yeah,
Alex Jones, and
I don't like it. I don't defend it. I don't
yeah,
defend it, even though I'm a huge Elon fan. I do not defend that action. Um, I I would love it if we could have everything. I love everything to be open. I think
actually
transparency is the
open,
most
yeah,
important thing, because as it is, there's not the when you ban like conservative voices for say for saying for properly gendering people, and they call it misgendering, and I think it's opposite. I think they
yeah,
are misgendering, right? So when you ban conservatives, and then you then say what they are thinking and their intentions and the why, and like it's like you are saying it, you're cutting their voice out of it altogether. And
right,
plus, the more and more separated from society people become, the more and more they can act as your your nightmare, right? The idea of them creating these collectives of people with their guns in the middle of Montana, and so like the more you push people out of society, the more they will band together in the exact way you don't want them to. So they should be able to say their ideas.
yeah,
You should be able to hear the ideas from them, not interpreted ideas by somebody else. It's just better all around.
yeah. Now I don't know. Maybe there's something that I don't know about Rumble. But as far as I can tell, Rumble is actually, and this is a level of a demonstration for it. I think that, who knows, maybe they have, they're just doing this because he's probably one of the top contributors on Rumble, Russell Brand. But as far as I can tell, Rumble is true to their word of
Yep.
maintaining that level of freedom for
Y-
their creators to have their voice and even be have the ability to monetize off of it.
They are forced into the position now. So even if they got cold feet on the idea, they would fail immediately if they went back on it. I mean, Russell
If they
Brand,
banned him, then
yeah,
all of the entire community would be like, okay, so you're just like everybody else then.
right.
That and it would absolutely destroy their entire
So
reputation.
the stock price when they opened up to get private money a year and a half ago or whatever it was, I bought some for kicks. I bought like $200 worth, so it was like 10 shares at the time. It was like $20 a share. And but now the stock price is always somewhere around like $4 to $8.
Yeah,
Sometimes it goes up to
it's
12.
low.
And it's barely, I mean, and if you find anything non right wing or non-conservative, or I guess you can say like the intellectual dark web. If you go on Rumble and do a search for a video of any other person you're looking for someone that makes shows you how to make toothpick houses or
Yeah,
anything else, it's not there.
that's
Rumble
what
is
Rumble needs.
only right now is only people that want free speech,
Yeah,
because there are fewer people there, and so why would and it's not monetized as well or at all, honestly. Um, so you make more money because there are more people on YouTube, and so they stay here. But like they haven't they haven't achieved the level of success that makes them stable long term. They can't. They're stuck.
yeah.
They have to be the free speech place so that people will go there for the free speech. If they're not free speech based, then everyone that was Rumble will just go to Twitter 100%.
I
And
think
that
that
might still happen.
I think that's something that Rumble probably should think about doing is prioritizing um, video content that and by prioritizing I mean like find people and set them up so that they can immediately be paid through the algorithm or through whatever the situation is, and the content that they make, and I mean they can kind of cap it off after a little while and say, okay, like you're on your own now. Um, but find those people who can do like the how to fix your toilet, how to
Yeah.
install this thing, right? Make it a place where people can say, how do I do this kind of thing? Make it figure out how to make it show up on results. Um, because that is the thing that they need because people just need that they need
I
that
think they
kind of
need
stuff.
something bigger. They almost need like a
They need it
Uh,
all.
this is a weird idea that I'm just thinking of that would need work. But what if they even just had YouTube videos that played there in some sense? I mean, meaning like you do the search and found a video from YouTube and it just plays it.
Hmm.
Like like you could have the YouTube banner below or whatever else. But what I'm saying, what it would provide is even if you didn't monetize those in any sort of way, it makes it such that Rumble is a place you can go for all your needs and
Political
your
insight.
not just the political stuff. And so I don't know ho or I'm saying that as a big idea because what you can do is almost just migrate all of YouTube in, and you have to do it some sort of legal way, and then what you wanna do is, of course, slowly get rid of that or have people create their Rumble versions of it.
I mean, if they found the content creators, they contacted them and say, "Hey,
To
can
make
you point
additional
your stuff?"
content, I'm just saying it's too small. It's like you gotta do it individual, and I'm just trying to think they need to have some sort of gimmick that just gets
Well,
all of the videos
I don't
there.
think that you can just say, "Hey, here's like you can't just say all of YouTube is now on Rumble," right?
Right. That's what I'm saying, but I'm saying there has to I'm saying there has to be some sort of big idea that can basically do that, and maybe you can't legally monetize on it, but you can say you show the YouTube banner at the bottom of it, and you have that's what I'm saying. I'm proposing some sort of crazy idea that is
Mm,
like, what? You're having YouTube videos here on this, but like but to bring those in, to bring in the people that so that instead of them having to upload to a new place to upload to Rumble, I mean, you can monetize it, but they are hemorrhaging money. They have their starting capital, so the starting capital they got initially before they went public,
mm-hmm.
um, was X number of dollars, and it can only last them a certain amount of time before it ran out. It's just people investing in the idea.
Right.
Um, it's a finite number, and they were losing money all the time. They're not gaining enough money through advertising back. And then when you have, and right now the initial money they got is their $20 a share from all the people that bought shares early on.
Mm-hmm.
That is the lump of money that they received. When that money runs
Runs
out,
out.
there is no more Rumble.
They
So
stagnate.
so they have done
Yeah.
things like pay like $20 million or whatever it is to you know to a couple people like Russell Brand and Steven Crowder or however much they're doing. I don't know how much they're paying. I don't know how much that is,
To
but
get them to have exclusive type of
right.
content on their
They're
platform.
doing that, and Russell obviously he's a big Rebel advertiser. So they're paying a certain amount of that, but they can only do that so much. They don't have the money they don't have the pure numbers that YouTube has, the millions and millions of people that are coming through and seeing ads and doing things. They don't have that. So they just have a pile of money that's just going down at whatever rate. And they
Yeah.
need to be able to recover it. So you can't just say, oh, they just need to pay people for this. Yes, but depends on how big the pile of money is and how good your strategy is for implementing that plan. Because if
Yeah. Well,
you just pay
I
it
don't
out, you're just ending your party sooner.
right. I'm not saying my suggestion is not based off of like, hey, we're going to give you money out of our stash. What we're gonna do is we're gonna algorithmically prioritize your content so that your content is seen more so, and there will be advertisements on those, so that it's nothing's coming out of their pocket. It's just, hey, more people are gonna find your content. It's gonna be on the main board, um, kinds of things.
Yeah.
And they could find the get some people who are the typical kind of guy who goes out and he finds some random stranger and does some kind of nice gesture, and it's very heartwarming, and then people will just kind of scroll through those, and because those are very popular as well.
Yeah.
So kind of prioritizing that kind of content, um, over some of the other stuff that's on there. I think that's how you would grow that platform. It also needs it needs some more user interface, um, uh, polish for it.
Yeah. It is when you're on the PC, it's not that bad. When you're on the phone, I find it really annoying.
I want to be
Um,
able to browse more
yeah.
like my next video. I want to be able to browse my video or browse for new videos and add them to a queue. And then I want to be able to, and I think that you can, is that you can minimize it so that it goes into a small screen so you can do other things while you're watching. And for it also not to crash as much. It's always kind of had
It's never crashed on me ever.
okay, that's good.
So maybe
I
it's
know a long time
hardware.
ago, or not too long ago, it would crash all the time. Like
Okay.
it would just kind of poop out.
And maybe that's an issue that I just haven't noticed it because um yeah, it just hasn't happened to me.
Yeah,
But I do kind of have monster machine. So
yeah. Well, I mean the phone.
oh,
On the
see,
phone is where it would
I
crash.
haven't listened much. I haven't so I'll listen to Steven Crowder. I go there for like one video. Like I'll go there to watch Steven Crowder's show sometimes. Um and that's like it. I guess I did
Yeah,
for the debates or the debates I went there and I watched.
I tried. I couldn't stand it.
Well,
I couldn't
you
listen
didn't
to it.
know that they were actually hosting the
No,
real.
I saw I went there live, like when it was starting up, and I was listening to him, but I was like, this is I don't want to hear you guys talking while I'm listening to the debate.
No, I'm not talking about Crowder. I'm talking about Rumble had just the debate aired without
Oh,
any.
right. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Right, and
If I
that's what I
had
watched.
known that, I
I
would have just
tried
gone
Steven
straight
Crowder at
there and
first,
done
and
that.
yes, the same. I had the same reaction. I was like, okay, they just talk random. Like you hear
I
half of
couldn't
it.
deal with it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, I ended up finding somebody who would smoke weed in the middle of breaks, and he would play hip hop music during commercials, but he was quiet throughout the entire actual debate, and
nice.
I actually really enjoyed that. I thought that was really fun. Um, yeah, it was that I thought that was a good way to go about watching a debate. I didn't care that he was like him smoking weed or whatever, but he'd be playing hip hop music, and I like hip hop music, so um,
Yeah, okay.
I was like, all right, you got some Biggie playing, all right, sweet. Oh, you got some MF Doom, that's what I'm talking about. Let's go. And I was like, this is great. There was a level of charm to it. Um, and the dude was just kind of a happy guy, obviously, because he was just sitting there smoking weed, but um, if I had known that it was on Rumble, which I presume that the next Republican debate is going to be on on Rumble as well, so I know
Yeah,
where I'm going to be going. Um,
yeah.
I know where I'm going to
I
go
mean,
for
I
that.
think I think they also have. I mean, Fox Business. Like, if you have the Fox News app, or probably even just the Fox News y- YouTube page, probably had it too. Honestly, they
Yeah,
probably had it broadcast live. Because the first one was Fox News and this one's Fox Business, I think, um, which is unfortunate that no one else will host them. But even if they do, they're not. The reason why you don't want them to is because they're not fair with questions.
yeah,
It's like there's like, so how long have you been beating your wife or
yeah.
something? It's like, have you stopped beating your wife type of
It
questions. Where
it actually reminds me of the Meet the Press recently. Have you heard about that with Trump? There was a Trump interview that was like an hour and 18 minutes for a
Mhm.
Meet the Press.
Yeah,
Did you hear about that?
no.
Oh,
Well, maybe unless I watched it. How long ago was this?
like 2 days ago.
Oh, I
Really
no. The last
recently.
2 days I've been not plugged in. I only know whatever
Okay.
Tim Pool
Yeah.
told me.
I mean, I just found out about this like late last night. I was like,
Did they pull it?
no, it's up. You can still watch it. It's like NBC News or something like that. Um, it was really interesting, but
I'll be watching it
yeah.
for sure.
Maybe we could do an episode tomorrow on that. Um, yeah, it was a very interesting one. They
3 days ago.
yeah
Oh, is that that same girl?
yeah it's her.
What?
I could almost like I wonder if what we could do is just do like we could just play it and watch it and comment on it.
They
Um,
we'd have to have it
it's kind of
faded
long.
out. We'd have to have it faded out. It's like an hour and 18.
It's a
But we'd
long
have to
one.
have it, how some people have it where it's like translucent and the background shows through or something like that. Something to make it,
Well, I think
because
if I have my screen set up where it's us in the side and in the corners, and then it's in the middle, I think that that works.
I'm talking about legally. Not that I'm
Yeah,
just
you can do that. You can have that as long as you're providing commentary and doing stuff like that with it. I guess I'd have to look into like, okay, how much of the
there's how
content can
many
I just
seconds
play
can you do let it play
without
before you say
commentary?
something? Right. There's all that. That's what I'm saying. Is
Yeah.
but I've seen some reaction videos where they get their pentatonics, like they're reviewing a pentatonic song, and but they keep on getting it taken down. And so what they do,
Well,
they have is they
that's
have.
music. You can't. Yeah, that's
Oh,
music.
music
A
is
lot of
different.
times,
Okay.
music is much more different. Um,
But the music is all the same. They just make it blurry. They make it not blurry, but they make it translucent and they put it about on the screen. You can kind of see the background behind it, and like
hmm,
watermarks basically
I don't know.
different, so that
I'll
no
get a
one
look
else
into
would
into
want to
that.
watch it.
Yeah, I'll take a look into that. Um, but I don't know that I have much more to go on. That's maybe something that we can maybe look forward at minimum we can talk about it. Um, but I think it would be fun to go
Yeah.
through it. Maybe we can even I can listen to it again and kind of maybe this is what we'll do. We'll timestamp certain parts that we found
Sure.
interesting.
That sounds fine.
Um, and then we can kind of comment on that kind of stuff.
I'm surprised that they got that's her. That's the one that gave it the town hall, right? No,
No,
wait,
that's the
that's different girl. Never mind, that's different girl. I see her now.
she hosted
I had a
one. I
different
think she
angle.
did one of the debates, or she did
But the
something. I
town hall one was ridiculous, and I
It
was like,
was.
"You would not interview with her again, would he?" So it's not. I just didn't see her from the front angle. I saw her from the side a bunch of times. She has the same type of profile.
Yeah, it's she's better in this one. But she's still kind of still a lot of the mainstream media um back and
It's
forth of, well, that's not true, that's not true.
yeah, yeah.
What's your evidence for that? And it's like, he's like, I've got tons of evidence. You should know that there's evidence. It's all over the place. That's not true. And it's just kind of like this
Yeah,
weird
yeah, yeah.
denial thing.
It's I it's so frustrating. I mean, I wish Trump was just a little bit better at that type of stuff because he just does the repeating thing and then whatever. He just has this thing.
Yeah.
It's good because it's a good thing and good things are good. And sometimes he gets in these little things. He's not saying anything. It's
Well,
like
there's
and Kamala Harris does that nonstop, and that's all Kamala Harris does. And
yeah.
Trump, he sometimes he's really good at being on point and talking about something, but then he goes into these one things like, well, I he doesn't really necessarily know what to say, so he just keeps on repeating the circle.
He kind of in what he does a lot in this one is he's asked a question, and then um he doesn't answer it. Instead, he kind of talks about something that is related to it, almost like this is the setup for it, for the answer. So he kind of
Mm.
like sets the stage, he paints the picture before he answers. And then he eventually answers, or he doesn't. There's one moment
Or he gets interrupted before that because
which
he's
happens all the
meandering too
time.
long, which
Yeah.
makes sense because he if you sit there and have too long of a prep, it's like, all right, so and then you gotta interrupt him
It
because
was
he'll just go on.
actually it was really interesting because she's kind of like she's interrupting him all like constantly while he's trying to speak and give her answers, and he's actually answering in many of these cases. But there are cases where he's not. Um but he eventually is like, cuz she says, I only have a limited time. You're only here for a limited time. And he goes, I've got all the time in the world. Like, I'm here. I've got all the time in the world. And so, at that point, she kind of backs off a lot. And he's like, let me answer this question. It's funny. He says, let me answer uninterrupted. And then he goes on to answer her and doesn't actually answer her question.
Damn it.
And
See,
so,
yeah, that's it's
yeah,
like, I like there are times when I real so, like I'm in a situation where I really like some of the big ideas and things he gets done, but he's not a ma he's not the great communicator other than, like, he's good at reading a room, and he's good
yeah,
at talking, and good at being funny, and he's good at things, but, like, he's about as qualified as I am. Like, what I'm doing right now is what he does. He just keeps on going around and talking and just saying, it's like, well, we just have to we just have to do these things, and when you have to do the things, you have to do the things,
well,
it's just
whenever something is kind of, whenever she points the stick at him, he kind of takes the stick, points it at Biden, and he's like, this is what's happening, this is what's happening.
yeah.
And then he gives it, and then he, like, it gets pointed back at him, and he kind of loops around. But I think that's kind of like, it's almost in a sense like what you have to do.
Yeah,
um
done in the right way, it's not a problem to point out the disaster that Biden has been and that he's not
right.
there as a human. It's fine, but to just deflect everything instead of taking things on. I think
Yeah.
it's fine to take things on. It's like, no, you ask you this with me, and I give you this answer, um, but you guys don't ask questions like this of Biden. You don't ask that he does all this something. So you can turn around and then list off whatever you want to list off about Biden, but he instead just deflects to Biden and doesn't address it first. You have to first answer the question or like, yes, no,
Or I
or
think
like, I don't like the premise of that question. You base that question based upon this idea, and I'm completely against that. But if you want to ask this question that's slightly different, blah blah blah, I'll say definitely yes. So if he had
yeah.
some sort of thing where he was in control and in command of the conversation, and he was really taking it to her like that, and then she wanted to point out other things, it's great.
What I find is interesting is a lot of what you just listed out of what you want him to do, he does do it, but it's just not.
Sometimes.
Yeah, it's sometimes
And
that
so I'm
he
like,
does it.
yes, when he does, I'm like,
Like
yes.
he might get it on like the fourth attempt on trying to answer the
Yeah.
question, or maybe he'll get it on the first attempt in answering a question, or maybe he'll kind of like preempt it, preempt her question with that kind of a thing. And so um, I think they honestly, I think that they both did a really good job, both as the interview and the interviewer and the interviewee. I think that she ends up kind of how would I say? It's very like biased mainstream media journalism interview. In a lot of ways, it's not even remotely as close as like a Kathy Newman to Jordan Peterson. It's nothing like that, but there are times where it's kind of like you can see that she's trying to get a gotcha out. And then there was this. I watched this other one. It was like a post show where they had a panel and she was speaking with other people, and they're kind of like they have these other people and they're saying oh yeah, he's boxing himself in, and he's making these statements that are really going to bite him in the butt later on, and I'm
Yeah,
kind of like, I
nothing.
don't see that any of that is
He's a
actually
mud
happening.
monster, like, so who said I think Ben Shapiro said he's a mud monster, and people throw mud at him, and he's just like, "Ah!" It's like, "What are you gonna do? Who cares?" You can
Yeah,
it doesn't matter how much mud you throw at him, he's Trump. He's either the same or stronger.
yeah,
It's frustrating, I'm sure, from people that disagree with him so much, but it's just funny for me since I happen to be on the side. Like, if someone of his person if he was advocating for ideas that I was not liking. He was running as a Democrat and doing things which, or even if he was running a Republican advocating for Democrat type of ideas, it'd be extremely frustrating and it would piss me off, I'm sure, because like
yeah.
he's being funny to illustrate this thing and making light of this issue that he's completely wrong on.
He wasn't
So
even
I can see
funny in
people
any
getting
of
pissed
it.
off at him for sure.
Yeah, you
But
know
you don't get as offended when he's talking about stuff you agree with.
yeah, it was it kind of reminded me of one of the lines of questioning is she was asking about like abortion, that surrounding that kind of topic. She's like, "Where are you going to put down put a number on it, and what is that number going to be?" And he answers, and this is the other thing that's kind of frustrating, not on Trump's part but on her part,
Mhm.
is like he literally answered the question several times. He's like, I don't know what the number of weeks or months, however you want to put it down. I don't know what that number is, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring both people, Democrats and Republicans, together, and we're going to negotiate something that everybody feels happy with, because this is a
Yeah.
constant struggle in our country and it needs to get resolved one way or another. And there is a date. He's like, there is a time frame that people are happy with. And he even says there are, after just grilling into like Democrats want to have um uh abortions up to and past birth, right? Like
Yeah.
they're born and they still want this, and she's like, nobody wants that. And he's like, yes they do. Here's a former governor. And so he's like, but then he goes on to kind of say there are like 92% of Democrats um don't want to allow for
Late term abortion.
late term abortions past like at 6 or 7 months. He's like, people don't want these, so we know
Right.
that these are dates that people are not okay with. And
A
so
majority of people fit within the like 6 week to whatever, like to like
they were using 15 weeks as like, she was kind of like, are you going to do 15 weeks? Would you sign that if that came on your table? Would you sign 15 weeks? And I was
So
like, okay, hold on a second. 4, 8, 12, like that's three and a half months is a pretty long time.
it is.
That's a pretty long time. And so, my personal position is like ideally like 3 months, and that's like being generous. That's like taking into account a massive lack of understanding what is even happening with your body.
Because, like, especially, like, you're severely obese
Yeah, like
and you
maybe
don't
you just
even
don't even know, and it's like,
I
oh, your
guess.
period is
But, like,
late.
you
Like
miss 2 after you miss 2 periods, you should
you should
freaking know.
know, right? And at that point, you're probably you're somewhere between within the 3 months. And so I
So,
think that at that point,
I don't like any of it. I think that people should just not get pregnant, or they should give it to somebody else, for adoption. I don't like any of it, but I
yep,
live in a world with other people, and so
yep,
um, I think that the way to win it is to try to convince people in the culture that
yep.
abortion is bad, and
I
don't
completely
do
agree.
abortion, please. Don't do abortion. Abortion is bad, but I still want to bring it down to like, come on now, like for sure anything for sure anything 3 months and beyond for me is just like, that's ridiculous to me. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I like the idea of the heartbeat bill in general. I know that's really tight with being even able to even know. Um, it's just like it's because it's about a life. It's not about like because if you were to say, did you discover life on Mars, we would know what that was, but they pretend like they don't know what it is right now.
yeah.
So like but we're in that era up until like 6 weeks when there's a heartbeat, and then like we're not in that Mars life scenario area anymore. We're into a real being here.
I
So
heard I heard somebody told me that they found a planet like 120 light years or 20 light years away that could possibly have life on it. And I was just like, what are we talking about? Like I've heard this before. Like
like what
we don't even know. We barely know
there's a
what's on
baby out there,
Mars. Like,
full
are you
grown
serious?
birth
Like,
baby out there.
oh maybe, oh yeah, of course, maybe there's potential life. It has the,
Yeah,
you know,
there's a full-grown baby at least on those planets. It
yeah,
can't be it can't be microbes and stuff, 'cause that's not life.
20 light years away, and we have like like we're still trying to figure out what's in our oceans.
Yep.
And but we're sitting here like, oh, we bet you that there's some life over here. It's just kind of like this is getting a little silly
That's
here.
I'll say though that's a different type of conversation. That's about fun. That's about like
Well, no, I'm talking about
fascinating.
like
Yeah.
these news articles come out, and it's not like it's a fun article in the sense it's like a
Well,
scientific
yes.
thing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying space exploration is about expanding. It's about going where no one has gone before. It's about the mystery of Star Trek. Even if you find nothing, like, and it's like a
It's a fun
like
experience to kind of think about.
it's good, it's fun thought experience, like, wow, the possibilities.
Yeah,
So I don't begrudge that whole conversation, and, like Elon Musk, which I think is ridiculous to want to, just, be on Mars in a sense of, like, making it make terraforming it such as it's like another little mini Earth. I think that's ridiculous, other than, wouldn't it be kinda cool if we could do it?
I think
I
it's a
think I don't
good
think we're
thing
gonna
for us to know to
It
for
we
us
would
to
have to
know
bring
how to
so
do.
much we would have to bring so much there, and we would have to, and even if we were able to unlock some of the CO2 carbon that is locked in some sort of this carbon ice and atmosphere, and then terraform it, there's not enough of an ionosphere to keep that stuff in. It's just gonna get shed by the sun constantly just gonna go away. So we would have to create a satellite system in between the sun and Mars to deflect the light just right, such that it was protected is acting like the ionosphere.
Well,
It's some sort of
these are problems that humans need to figure out because this is what humans do. But
yes.
when it
Well,
comes to,
I I don't hey, I think that's an awesome thing, because in the fact in when
it's a
trying to figure that
challenge,
kind of
right?
stuff out, you figure out cool science.
Right, exactly. But when it comes to like the topic of abortion and stuff like that, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Then they
much
won't
different
say that's life.
conversation.
So,
Um,
anyways, I just say that whole "what is life?" microbes or whatever else. After the heartbeat starts, it's hard to argue that it is a baby at least. And
yeah, but
I think we should have a culture of people. I understand we disagree on the timing, but
sure.
that's my reasoning.
I guess that the thing about it is we can't have it the way that the conversations are kind of happening now is they are it's this is my position, you must come to my position, and that goes either way. And what Trump is kind of pointing to is like, look, whatever it is that your position is and whatever your belief is, you believe that there's that the heart of you believe in the heartbeat, you believe in women having control of their own body and making those decisions themselves. Those are two completely separate things, but the actual legislation and what it is that we put into practice, the thing that though we have to take out this aspect of it. If you guys want to go in culture and this and that, like you can brew the culture that says, hey, you know what, like, if you want to get an abortion, you can do that, but you
Right
have to
now,
do it
we
within
have
this
it
period of
be as
time.
an abortion is just like it's like an emancipation of your womanhood. It's like they're treating abortion now like it's almost like, oh, how many abortions have you had?
Yeah.
You ready for your fourth
Yeah,
abortion yet?
and that's where I think that it's if people have a problem with women getting abortions, I think that people are going to have to tackle that on the culture side. But
Yes,
I
we do.
think that we also I think it is proper to some degree, and I haven't fully landed on it because I do believe in states' rights type of a situation.
Exactly.
But um, I think that there should be limits to where you what you can have. If we're talking about 7 months, 6 months pregnant and later, I think that maybe that's not something,
Especially if it's
barring,
viable.
yeah. Well,
Especially if
that's
it's viable
is so
outside of
so
the
long as
womb.
it's not like rape,
Jeez.
incest, or it could kill the mother.
Even
As
in
long
that
as it's
case, that's
not
not the baby's
those.
fault. That's not the baby's fault.
Yeah, but like, hey, you know what? Hey, okay,
It's like
incest
you're
is
you're you're
incest is
you're
not something
punishing
that you
the
want to
yeah.
promote genetically within our
Thank you.
our
It's
our
true,
place.
and I feel bad.
Rape is a pretty difficult thing, and I don't think that most people would be like, hey, you know what, like, hey, I have a baby and this baby is a rape baby. That's like,
Yes,
hey,
he can have it
and I
tattooed on his
don't think that
forehead.
that's something that societally we want to enable, right? And so I think that
I still think
there's
it should be done soon. You know when you've been raped. You're
right,
taking that pregnancy test every day,
right,
right?
right.
So, it should be dealt with right away
Right. And that's where the limits all kind of
if you're gonna do it.
come in. And I think the only real general exception to that where it can happen even later than that would be at the risk of the mother's life. Um
Yeah,
and that would
not of her happiness or her comfort, but of her
right
actual
of
life.
her actual life. Um I think that that's where that would land. But I think
Yeah.
that it's
S
it's it's a discussion that needs to happen and that they both need to
it's
kind of come together to find a time. Maybe it's
we we
maybe
find
it's
ourselves in a
15
bad
weeks,
place.
maybe it's 21 weeks, maybe it's 6 weeks, maybe it's whatever it is, but
The
that's
thing
going to
is,
have to be a negotiation.
we did the Roe v. versus Wade thing to make it consistent with the Constitution, and now we're
Right.
arguing, well, do we wanna do we wanna do the same thing the other way? Like, make a mandate, for it should be states to decide, um,
This is what makes it so
but
that
then when
people
it gets
can
like
actually
crazy,
have the
when they wanna do
negotiation.
after birth abortions and like, oh, as long as there's one toe inside the womb, it when you have that type of scenario, it makes you wanna be like, "Yeah, but no, right? We can't
Right.
allow that." So it makes you want to do this because the overall correctness of you overrides the Constitution and the laws and all that kind of stuff. I think we need to not do that. I think we need to win the culture war. We need to show people what kind of garbage they are for wanting to do that type of thing, and we need to just have it be states' rights.
Well, I think I'm largely in agreement with you, but I also am partially in agreement with the concept of having a set limit, and that limit can even be fairly late. So you can say, hey, like get people together and say, okay, look, we'll say 7 months, right?
Oh, jeez.
Federal, like, yeah, exactly, right? But I mean, hey, you know what? How, okay, you say
Yeah,
OGs to that because that's pretty bad, right? But what if you have a state that's like, hey, you know what? You could
like
do it even
California,
even
where
when
you
they're
can do it
out.
anytime.
Yeah, anytime, right? And so what you can effectively be able to do is say federally, you can have an abortion up to 7 months, but states have a right to go from
I got
any
an
point
idea.
as early
I
as they
got an
want
idea.
to as late as they want.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we could define.
Oh, you messing with definitions now. Uh-oh, here we
Yes,
go.
we could define what an abortion. So, like, we could decide. We could decide that
Oh no.
after X number of months, 6, 7 months, whatever you want to say, um, it's not abortion. It's just it's not. I mean, I'm saying we
You could
can define
define it
down the
as
term,
murder.
and then hey, we're not controlling abortion. We're just deciding it like this is the full. This is a viable baby. After it's a viable baby, it's not even. It's not. There's no abortion conversation. You can't just decide to kill a viable baby. So I'm saying is like we can just define things down to a certain stage to get that to
I
achieve what you're talking about.
I will absolutely say I would not be in favor of that. I have
What? How else? Otherwise, it's not consistent with the Constitution. You have to be able to.
no no
You can't just say, well, we're gonna make this rule
on
because it's good.
principle on principle. When you start messing with definitions and you start altering that kind of stuff, it absolutely opens the door for people to change language, which is exactly what they're doing. There's
I,
sex and
I
gender
I
are
think it's the opposite
becoming
of that.
no, because
Okay,
sex and gender is becoming synonymous, or it's becoming separate from each other because they're changing the definitions of what these things are. Um,
so what I'm
and
saying is
so
this
your
counters that
tactic
in
is the
some ways.
same thing, and that's going it's just going to backfire, and it's going to you may win it in this area, but the precedent has been set that what we can do is we can change definitions, um, for what things are. We can slap labels onto things in order to get our way. And I think that what we're doing is a level of dishonesty in
No,
changing language. I don't think that we're actually solving the problem. We're just manipulating
wh- I,
language
I'm
in order to get the result that we want.
I'm saying that at some point it's undeniable to like 99% of people that it's a
Address
viable
it in
baby.
culture. You can address it in
No,
culture.
that's what I'm saying. I
Yeah,
want to because what I'm saying is that at some point when you have like 99%, because you're never going to get 100% ever on anything. You can't.
you don't
It
need
just
a
you
hundred
can't.
percent. You need 80%. You get
Whatever
ninety
numbers
percent
you
of
want to.
you get 90% of Democrats who all say 92% who all say I am not for abortion, um, after 7 months, and that's just a number that I'm throwing out there. Maybe, and if you went to 6 months, maybe it's like 85%, or like I don't want it, and this is like Democrats, right? And so I
Right
think
now,
that
it'd
you're
be
going to be able to
right
find a
now they're not going to have
number.
that conversation. Right now, it'd just be like always a woman's right. Always a
Well,
woman's right. They don't want to say anything. They don't want to give any numbers. Always a woman's right. That's all they go to
Well,
now.
if but that's when you force the negotiation and you say, "Look, I'm getting legislation on my desk. I have the power to sign this. What you guys can do is you guys can either say, "Hey, I'm sitting here with this, it says 6 weeks that I could that I is the limit on this abortion, and I'm able to sign this federally. Now, if you guys don't want to come to the table and have this discussion, and we can negotiate what is a real practical number that we can all be happy about, then this is what's going to get signed." That's how you force people into the conversation. But if what you do is you say, "Hey, like, if they're 2.5 months because they get their heartbeat, presuming that that's when they get their heartbeat, now you're killing a baby." Or if it's like, "Hey, the heartbeat bill is like what? It's like 2 weeks or something like that." They say it can feel pain at a week or something, and it's like, okay, so are we call we're federally labeling that as murder, and then the consequences that can then come from that.
So
I don't think
what?
it's a good tactic for that.
So okay, I think that it's just so weird because I don't want abortion at all, but um, it is different to have like if there is an option for people like up to 2 months or 3 months, whatever else. If there is an option, you can't say that the federal government is not allowing for that option. That option does exist. And so you can kind of federally just say, after a certain point, you can't because that doesn't exist
Sure.
anymore. So, like, you're almost not taking away a right because they have the right. It's just that you can't be a lazy ass and wait too long.
Right. And I'm in favor of that, right? Of federally saying like here's a date that we can all agree on that is the actual
So
limit.
that is me just thinking that through in a different way that I didn't think about before. Because I don't, like I said, I don't want federal, like, to be able to ban is different than to just say that it's there, but you can't be an irresponsible person. You have to be aware of your physical health and for things, and there's responsibility with sex and all that kind of stuff. It's so it may be not inconsistent with it may not be inconsistent to just do that. It does feel bad at first because you think it'll leave it up to the states. But if you say that, well, they do have that chance, it's just a smaller window.
Yeah, you
Um,
just put limits on it to say, okay, California
okay,
or wherever else, you don't get to
okay.
you don't get to literally kill the baby or
So I've
abort the
talked
baby
myself
after it's
into it now.
exited the womb.
I've talked myself into it, but I don't think that it should be. I don't think it should be gone for. I don't think it's a winner. Meaning,
Let me ask you, had if you had to go to the negotiation table and you had to find a date that you could be reluctantly happy about while the opposition would be reluctantly happy to receive your position.
they're not close enough together for that to happen.
I'm asking you
Yeah, what I'm saying is
what
that
you
I'm
would
saying the
pitch.
positions are too far away to be. Um, my position is too far away to be because like for me, already the compromise from 0 is 6 weeks. You know what I'm saying? Like,
So you're
I'm saying,
okay.
like, I don't know
Your
that that is
highest
close
point.
enough to anyone else, like other people that like you are like, "Do you think it's okay, like, 3 months or something, or whatever else?" I don't know if that's close if but you are more like, you imagine people that want it they wanna just do it, like, when it's crowning, when the baby's crowning, like,
Right,
to suck brains out, right?
right.
Like, people that want that, and what are they gonna compromise to? They're gonna compromise to, like, well, you can't have your
Well,
contractions
they're
yet.
not
I
going to
mean,
compromise to 6 weeks, right?
right.
And you're not going to compromise to post birth, right? So you're going to have to stretch outside of your comfort zone for what you find acceptable at least a little bit. At least a little bit. Like you know that 6 weeks is your limit, right? And that's you going beyond what you are for. But you also know that if you want to stop the babies from getting aborted post birth or at 7 months,
Yeah.
you
No,
know that you're
I
going to
understand the
have to
concept.
bring your number down.
I
Because if
understand
you
the concept.
don't, then it could be that babies could be aborted all. It could federally be
So I want states individually to um create a culture that makes it
well,
that
that's
creates a
states' rights though.
culture.
That's a different
Yes.
conversation.
I don't care. But federally, I don't want to I'm not trying to have so
So
at
you
the
just
federal
want
level,
to
what
allow
you'd
it
be doing is
anywhere.
opposite. I wouldn't be talking about my limits. We'd be talking about what can we get away with nationally? How low can we get that number nationally?
Well,
So
that's what the conversation
but
that
it's
I'm
not with
having with.
me. It's
No, I
with other
know.
Democrats.
I
It's with the
it's not
Democrats
necessarily with other
that want
Democrats.
this, and we're having more Democrats that think that 9 months is barbaric, but like maybe maybe after you get down to 7 months, then you will have equal number of people that feel like that's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a number it comes down to where the Democrats or the pro-abortion people will where
will
there'll be
accept.
more people.
Okay, so say that it's
So,
7 months.
at 9 months, more Democrats are not a fan of
Right.
abortion, but the farther you get down, you get more and more people joining to like, "Well, no, that's okay." So you get more and more people. So I'm saying that's where the line is. The line has nothing to do with me.
But you're part of making the lines what they are. You are a representative of that idea of where those limits are, just as I
I'm a
am.
forcing factor, meaning I try to convince and get people to lower that number, but I think it's
Right.
ultimately a difference between the where the Democrats are going to allow, because if we're at the other side of the spectrum, we're talking about the early line, it would be more in my court, I think. I'm saying, but at the end, there are 0% of conservatives in general. I think there's near 0% of conservatives that want that,
Well, sure.
and but like I think there's like a 10% or 15% of Democrats that want it all at the birth and everything because of women's rights. There's like a 15% number, and the further you go down, the more that number increases. So like you get down to 8 months, and maybe it's 20%. You get down to 7 months, maybe it's 40%, and whatever it is, it's that number changes. But I would just be convincing those people to let it happen. It's other states too. It's like
Well,
I don't know.
I'm
I don't
talking
think
about
there's
the
any way.
federal.
I don't know how I would me compromising would make any difference.
I guess let me put it like this. I'm using you as a representative of somebody who has to come to, should you not, I mean, I could flip the script and say it's Joe Biden gets in again, and he's going to go full on, and he's going to say, if you guys cannot come to an agreement, we're going to have federally no limits on abortion. That's what's going to happen if you guys can't come to some kind of an agreement.
Okay.
And so if you're
Um.
not willing to budge from the 6 week
So
point,
then, okay.
then it ends up being
The
like,
strategic
fine, you
thing you
can't
do.
come to anything.
The strategic thing you do with this is you throw it back into the holy grail of the Roe versus Wade, and you say that the trimester system was an inspired thing that we've all been living by forever. So the first trimester should be the only section where that is
How
available,
many
and
how many weeks is that? Is that the 6 weeks?
that's 3 months.
3 months.
Right. So
But
it's saying
that's far
you
beyond your
can go
six
back to the
weeks
holy grail of that. And so that's what I would do strategically, to try to give you what you're asking for here.
to make it
It's
lower.
it's is that you make that you say like, "Hey, it was good enough for Roe versus Wade. It should be good enough for you," instead of trying to push it out towards
Okay.
9 months.
So then
So that's
I guess
so
that I
Roe versus Wade
generally got my
decision
answer.
made the trimester system. They invented it in the writing of the decision.
Right. So I guess I got the answer that I was
Okay, that's
kind
the
of,
answer you're looking for. Okay.
well, not the answer I was looking for, but
Yeah.
it was like, you initially said like, I would not budge from 6 weeks. Here you are saying, okay,
No, it's not
if this is
it's
part of the negotiation, and this is kind of what we have to do, and I'm going to have to sacrifice something, just as they're going to have to sacrifice something,
I
then
get it.
the first trimester is the process by which you would accept that type of a negotiation.
So, of course, what you do is if you live in California and they have a no limits abortion,
Right.
and if I lived in California, I could vote for an 8-month abortion,
Right.
right? I could do that because that's a step. It's not that I'm condoning 8 months. It's that like baby steps. Okay, we got this. Now
Right.
let's do a 6 month, or you want to try to
You bring it
you
down.
want to get things down
Yeah.
as much as you can and all that. So what I'm saying is that like the point at which I would probably stop out of some sort of compassion would be around the 6 week mark. I mean, stop pushing for it. Around the 6 week mark, where you also have a culture of life
Right.
where it's not just this culture of death where they're just like, oh, this is just all about our genitals and what we can do with them, and about emancipating ourselves and being as free as men to do whatever and not being punished by a baby. So if we can get rid of that and we can have it be more of a culture of life where babies mean something to people, and
Yeah.
then having an out for some scenarios and some weird things or whatever else. I could see a 6 week thing. That's just where
Okay.
that's how I would stop the pushing of like trying to force it down everyone's throat to zero.
Okay.
Um, zero's always it's just because we live in a world where people are idiots and not idiots in terms of accidentally got pregnant, but
So let me try to make sure that I understand your position on this.
man, this turned into a full blown abortion
I
debate.
know,
I didn't
right?
plan on that.
Okay,
I was
I just
you mentioned with Trump, but
yeah. So okay, so my this is my understanding of your position, and correct me if I'm wrong. On a federal level, the cap that the maximum cap that you would accept at a federal level, right? This is not involving states' rights or states
right,
whatsoever
right,
yet, would be the first trimester, which is 3 months.
sure.
Then you would work on a state by state basis for your state specifically. Would it for your state specifically to reduce that 3 months acceptance level down to 6 weeks,
Yeah, towards that as close as
as close
you
as you
can
can
get it,
get
right?
to
It's as
six
close as you
weeks.
can convince your neighbors to vote for, you know?
Right. And so I think that that is effectively the thing that Trump is more or less trying to aim for, is to have that kind of a negotiation to say, I understand what it is that you want, um
A
and you'll
tactic that he needs to use more is what you said right there. He needs to be able to say, "Hey, so you're asking me the same question 4 times,
right,
and what you want me to say is this, and I'm not trying to say
right.
this, you're trying to push me into saying this. I wish you would do that and identify what they're leading him to," and he needs to do that a lot more often.
Well, he tries, he
You can
does, he
say, "You're
says, I
trying to have me say
answered this.
this,"
Yeah,
and I'm trying to say, "That's not my intention at all, and you just imagine I'm a bad person, so therefore I'm going for this." I'm not even aiming for that. I'm aiming for other things, and so what I'm
yeah.
gonna do is because when they keep
You'll
on
see
asking
that,
this
yeah, that's
question
what he
over and
does
over
though.
and over again, they ask these questions and ask the questions, and it's because he's answering with a completely different point of view and
Right.
different reasonings,
They want him
and they
to
want to say, no, 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 those aren't the real reasons.
yeah,
Talk about the real reasons. They want to ask this again, so to make sure you say that you are a racist or you are whatever else.
right,
They want to say because you're a horrible person. So he wants to get to the nut of this is the only possible thing is that because your motivations are bad. And so he
right,
needs to point say, I'm not going to say this because I don't believe that. And that's what you think that I believe. And I actually believe this. And so he needs to do more of that of like saying because they when they keep on asking the question, that's what they're doing. Is they're trying to push him to a certain
right.
specific answer they want to hear.
Yeah, what she does a lot in this is like, if a 15-week abortion gets put on your desk for it to be federally mandated, would you sign it? And that's where he's like, I would be negotiating. I don't know what that number would be. We'd have to figure it out. So I don't know, but it's a negotiation. And then she's like, well, would you do, well, 15 weeks though, would you sign it? And it's just, and
Yeah.
he basically kind of goes down the line of a lot in the way that you kind of want him to. It's just that she just kind of keeps on coming back, and he just can't, kind of more or less keeps repeating,
So
you
what
don't
he should say
understand. Right,
specifically in this, what he should say is that like what you are trying to do is make this whole election cycle about abortion because it's the only issue that you guys have,
he
you
doesn't
know?
go he doesn't
So,
go
like,
that hard
he
on
should
it on
say I
it.
haven't heard him. He
Yeah,
said, like, "This is the only issue you guys have, and it is the reason why you made a recovery in this last election." And, because of the Roe v. Wade thing, it actually helped them.
yeah,
They were able to rally that was the only point because Joe Biden is very, very bad.
yeah,
And that usually taints in midterms. It's all about the guy at the top. Midterms, it doesn't usually matter the other stuff. Um, Joe Biden's very, very bad, and but like there's this abortion thing. So like That
I
just
really
that
don't
one
think.
because they're able to do the
Yeah,
women's right to choose. It's all about women's rights, and women Republicans hate women, and that was a political loss, but a unfortunate. That's it's almost like a sacrificial victory, like sacrificing our power in government for a positive step forward.
yeah. I don't. I think it was a huge mistake for especially Republicans, largely Republicans, to reduce abortion in their states um, as soon as that the Roe v.
Yes,
Wade got
they didn't
overturned.
let it die down, and then they pushed too far in purple states and things where the
I don't.
Republicans had a little bit of
What
control.
I think they should have
Yeah,
done is they should have come out with a statement and say Roe v. Wade is passed or Roe v. Wade has been overturned. We are not going. I'm making the decision that while I don't agree with the level that we are at now, this is such an important issue that I think that it is up to the people to determine what this is, what level that it is that they want. I will put, I will pitch. This is what I think that it should be at. If you want it to be at this or around there, you can vote for me, and this is my opposition's position. And if that's what you want, then you can vote for them. I mean, in different words, maybe more politically
it,
savvy, but
the thing is, you can have the most brilliant and eloquent
it's
speech
not
of
going to
what you
matter.
just
You're a
said, and that
Republican and you're
doesn't
going to get
matter. It
crapped
just
on.
it's all about
True.
the counter campaigns. So like
Yeah.
we're saying things as if people were going to hear or even be engaged or give a
They're
shit.
not. Yeah,
All they're
you're
going to
right.
hear is they're like, they don't believe in a woman's right to choose. That's all they're going to hear. Like they're
Yeah,
just so it's like even if you have the best of intentions of doing things,
it's
it
not going
doesn't
to
matter.
work.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
I guess in a sense like
It
them
applies on
making
the other
this
side too.
decision,
But
yeah, them making this decision to implement these time frames
strategically,
immediately is probably largely
politically,
inconsequential.
strategically, it was bad for states to do that. It did rally the base for Democrats.
I don't think it would have
Maybe
like
morally it was correct if it stays. Like if you have a state where it's at a 6 week and it stays there even through the test of government changes and things, that maybe you can say that, you know what, we sacrificed political power, but we saved a lot of babies' lives. Maybe they can justify that. But
maybe that's what they're aiming for is hey
but if it
we
just gets reverted back because you overstepped, then it's like, what are you doing?
yeah.
You didn't do anything. All you're doing is putting the people that the culture of death in control.
I think it was a politically it was a loss for Republicans either way that you cut it. It
Yeah,
didn't
it was.
I agree. I
Because we
don't
were
think
gonna
that there's
slaughter if
anything you
that
could say.
ironically, if Roe versus Wade didn't get overturned, that case didn't show up in the courts,
Hmm.
there was a slaughtering that was gonna be happening this last cycle.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, it was that was their one rallying point because they had nothing to point to. All they could say is Trump bad, and Trump wasn't on the ballot. So they
Yeah.
so they all they get is Trump bad, and like, well, Trump's not running, not
Well, and
he's
I
withdrawing.
knew that's what was going to happen too, and I think most people probably knew. And I and in some sense, I kind of almost applauded it because I was like, um, this is the system functioning as we expect it to. We may not, I may not necessarily be applauding the results of some of the states and them having going to the furthest extent of abortion that they can or cutting it off at the earliest point that they've done. I may not agree with either of those extremes, um, but people's voices were heard and they elected the people that and they got out the people that they didn't want, um, because they overstepped their bounds. And so
Yeah.
for the political sphere, and the system actually operating how we want it to, I think that's where the victory lies, not necessarily in the
It's just
results.
unfortunately that it was a single issue win.
True, true.
So there are so many people that have one single issue and that's all they have.
Yeah,
Like I'm not
true.
am I a single issue? Would you, if would you, is there a single issue you think that I'm a single issue on? I
I don't know
mean,
that I know
I might be
your.
too close to myself to know. I don't think so.
I know I'm largely a single. I can
Yeah,
be a single
you
issue
are with,
person.
like, the, like, trans and that type of
No,
stuff? No.
that's a big issue for me. War and foreign relations
Okay.
is my number one.
Okay.
Um, which is pretty much why like I didn't vote for Trump the first time around because I thought that he would bring more wars and more instability
Mhm.
across the world. But I became um, a big fan because he did the exact opposite of that. He actually brought hope and change, which is what I was expecting from
Obama, yeah.
Obama after witnessing what happened in Iraq. So until we can kind of change our national behavior to stop entering ourselves into other into conflicts, doing all of these proxy wars, at least starting wars. I believe that even this proxy war is us starting a war. Um, I know it's a Russia Ukraine, but for our involvement, that's us engaging in another war.
Yeah.
This is a new war that we are engaging in. Maybe it's not our lives that are necessarily at stake, but it is a new war.
Yeah, if I were to try to rationalize a single issue for me, it would be pushing together the idea of the the open border and our and our policy and in our wars and all kind of stuff of just like then I guess you could say that is the most important thing to me is the I guess you could say foreign policy is actually even though it's not the most
Yeah,
if you can include protecting our borders and immigration, it kind of is the most important to me structurally as a successful nation.
yeah,
So, I mean, it's not my passion project.
right.
It's I mean, but
But
it's
it's
like
among the
it's
most.
probably
It's
the
to
most
you. It's probably the most important thing. I
yeah.
guess for me, um, the war in Iraq affected me so much because I saw it happening so unjustly, um, and I saw the consequences from it, and then I saw the abuses that took place through it. That I think that that it was probably among the most horrible things that our country has done. Um, and but if we got a hold of that and our issues became different, um, or if our if our issues such as the border, or even, I mean, I'm not saying that trans couldn't be my number one issue. If the trans thing came out and they were just like, hey, you know what, if you're like 6 years old and you say that you're trans, then you want to go out and you want to get surgeries and you want to take hormones and you want to do all this
No,
stuff to
thank
change
you.
it, I would that would become that
Yes.
would become my number one
So,
issue,
you know,
and
it's
I
so
would
hard
vote
because
based off of that. Or if our border just completely opened up and it was just like I saw something in was it Italy, and there was like, here's a town of like 7,000 people and there's like 16 or 18,000 um like migrants that are occupying it as well. Like, and it was just like, okay, if
yeah.
that was the situation,
Yeah.
right,
So
then that would become my number one issue.
I guess I guess my biggest passion is the idea of I would love to put an end to identity politics in general.
That's a hard one to do
Like
because you have to have a conversation
like
about it,
what like
and having the conversation
that
enables it.
we don't that they no longer embrace the idea of the melting pot and it's all
Yeah,
instead of like it's like instead of it being like we are a collectively America and as we add flavor from other places they can add some things to it and they can instead of living individual communities together and having to like you can't culturally appropriate and like all this stupid thing where you're valuing certain groups over other groups and it's like it's keeping racism alive in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
Yep.
Instead of just
It exasperates it.
instead of just being um people being people, and
Yeah.
that's my passion. I'm not sure that's that's probably more important than the foreign policy thing, honestly. But I guess what I mean is like I don't. I guess it's all connected because you could talk
It
about
is.
when you have an open border and there's no rules, and then you have people just getting free services and then never learning to speak English, so like I as a delivery driver, there's so many places I deliver to where they can't speak any English, and
Yeah.
I go there and I'll try to. And I just do what I do because I'm smart and I know. But if I need to communicate with somebody, like they have a bill problem or whatever else, I had to speak broken Spanish to them,
Yeah.
or there's nothing.
Yeah.
I had to speak broken Spanish to them. They can't speak broken English to me. It's some people just know nothing, and it's so frustrating. So
Well, if you're going to be a part of this country, you need to be able to integrate into this country. And
it needs to be the national language, English.
what's going to
Yeah,
destroy what something that would destroy the country is if people weren't even able to communicate with each other. If you had so many people that you're walking around as if you're in a foreign country, um, if it gets to that level, that would absolutely become a number one issue. And my one of my concerns is that like we're gonna with this open border policy that Biden has kind of enabled. It's not open border, but I mean, in effect, it's open border. Um, and we've heard the mayor of New York saying that this is we can't keep all these people. It's going to destroy this country. You're not going to be able to
it's gonna
talk to each
he
other.
no, they said he said it's gonna destroy New
New
York.
York.
The New York
Yeah,
we
yeah, it's
he
going to
didn't give a
destroy New
shit about
York.
that company. Like
Yeah,
we should put other places can handle them. We take it somewhere else. So he wants to kick them out.
right,
Um, I understand New York is a very populated place, but then you shouldn't have sanctuary city rules in
right.
place. If you're
But
a
it's
sanctuary city, then they should be able to come there. You take care of them.
right. And so that can absolutely destroy the country from the inside out, and
Yeah.
it ends up causing far more problems. It would generate more racism. It would generate so much more things that are really negative. And I liked what Morgan Freeman said is just stop talking about it. Like
Yeah, exactly.
when it
Stop
comes
talking
to
about it.
race and all that kind of stuff, like just leave it alone, don't talk about it. But you also can't have these open borders and having people flood in, because then you can't function, you can't operate, you can't do business, you can't
It
operate,
should be
you
not
can't
offensive.
relate.
It should be not offensive for me to when they're talking about, yeah, oh, yeah, some customers come in this morning and and the and they ordered this thing, but I didn't have it for him. It's like, oh, which customer was that? It's like I don't know his name. It was the black guy because there's only one black guy came in, or it was the Asian couple or whatever it was. He said, oh, it
Yeah,
was the Asian couple.
yeah, that shouldn't be
That
offensive.
shouldn't be offensive if I'm not attacking them like, "Oh, those darn black guys or that darn Asians." Like, I'm not doing that. Like, that is everything is so sensitive like that. It's like, we should just be whatever. I mean, who cares? It's an identifying marker. It's like, I'm
Yeah,
not a type of person that notices what color tie someone wears.
yeah,
I couldn't tell you what I can tell you what I was wearing yesterday only because I wear the same thing almost every day. But I couldn't tell you what you were wearing last time. I couldn't tell you anybody what someone's wearing yesterday. So, like, that is just a thing I notice. I might notice they're a tall black guy, or I might notice they're buff, or I might notice that there's a cute girl or whatever else, but I don't know what they're wearing, and how am I supposed to
yeah.
describe them?
If
I don't know
there's
the
a
name.
guy, if you're standing there talking to somebody and you're referencing Ken who's standing over um in a group of people, and he's the only black guy in that group,
Yeah,
and you say, oh yeah, Ken, he's over there. Which one's Ken? He's the black guy. That should not be an offensive.
right.
I
It is for some
completely
people.
agree. um yeah,
But
and
it's just a symptom of everything else,
yeah, it
of
is.
like where what I'm saying is that we have this identity system in place that is like a religion, and it
Yeah.
gives people meaning because they belong to something. It's like, well, how about you belong to an America? How about we
Yeah.
care about America again? How about we care about each other and we're part of one community that wants to do well instead of having individuated communities and pointing
Yep.
fingers to other people for appropriating in the wrong way. It's it's all silly to me.
Intersectionality is just an is super toxic. Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. But that was a long one.
That was.
We just kind of got caught up in an abortion debate.
We got caught up in a lot of stuff. Um,
That's
that was
fine,
fun.
whatever. And then
I like
and
it.
meandering,
Yeah.
yeah, where in the
I'm
title will
thinking about maybe not even titling these kinds of things, and just kind of being like, we're
yeah.
having a conversation. Here's the date that we did it. Like, I don't know. I'll figure something out. All right, you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
Hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. If you really enjoyed this, hit the bell notification icon, so you can be sure to catch the next one. All right, later, guys.